Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Continual Improvement webinar on Phlebotomy Lab Operations. This is Sierra Tollefson, an education specialist for Mayo Clinic Laboratories. Our presenter today is Mohammed Mustafa, a senior principal systems engineer in the Department of Laboratory Medicine and Pathology at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. Just a couple of things to remind everyone of before we begin today. There will be a question and answer session at the end of the program. You can submit questions online via the Q&A icon in Zoom. Please only use the chat function for any technical issues. Today's program is being recorded and will be posted to our website in a few weeks. And now I'll turn things over to our presenter.
Welcome to today's webinar, and the topic today is on Phlebotomy Lab Operations. First of all, I have to go through these disclosures. I do not have any financial disclosure to say. I also want to make this disclosure. I'm not a phlebotomist by training. I'm an engineer who has worked with the phlebotomy area for almost 16 years now. So most of my experience with phlebotomy has been, or the labs, has been in operations. So our topic today is on phlebotomy operations. How do you operate an efficient phlebotomy work area? Our learning objectives for today include, and I hope by the end of this presentation, participants should gain some knowledge in developing processes and coming up with operational metrics for their work areas. Using the metrics that have been gathered to recognize for improvement opportunities, and also develop systems for managing daily improvements within your work area. And overall, how do you measure your service effectiveness in your work area? So we'll start the presentation by looking at the typical daily life of a lab manager. It can be a phlebotomy area or any diagnostic lab to talk about. So a manager will come to work very happy, ready to go, and right away we start getting into some of the day-to-day issues of managing a lab. We know, especially in the phlebotomy area, we always have this issues with staffing, training issues, competencies. So these are some of the staffing issues that you have to deal with right in the morning when you come to work. Do I have the enough staff to manage the work that I have? If I don't have the staff, what do I do to make sure that I can get through the day? Is the staff that I have available, are all of them trained to perform the tasks at hand? And how do I manage my competencies? So these are all the different dynamics in the people side in operating a lab, making sure that you have competent, trained staff, available staff to do the work. So this also goes into staffing to workload, making sure that each day you have the appropriate number of staff to manage the work that you have available. We also encounter issues with complex technology. The healthcare arena is always changing. There's always new technology coming up. So this is also another headache for managers to make sure that this also goes into the competencies. Your staff are competent with the new technology that is coming up. You have to keep up with the new technology so it can help you in your operations. Supplies. We all know we had an issue with supply chain. So how do you make sure that you have the proper inventory to perform the work? Have the right supplies at the right time, and also at the appropriate cost to do your work. Because we are in the healthcare system, we want to make sure that our cost is manageable so that we can have the proper reimbursement to maintain our operations. So that also goes with making sure that we source supplies at the reasonable cost so we can reduce our supply expense. So because supply cost is going up and up, how do we make sure that we're working with the right vendors to get the proper cost of supplies? We all know about regulatory constraints. Healthcare arena have a lot of regulations that we have to comply with. So how do we make sure that the managers themselves and the staff, have this knowledge to make sure that whatever we do within the lab meets regulations. IT systems, just like the technology changing with supplies, equipments, the software itself also continually changing. We have different lab information systems. We have other ancillary IT systems that we use. How do we make sure that we are competent and fluent to use these IT systems? So this also goes into anytime we have a new IT system, making sure that our staff trained on those IT systems, they are competent so they can use these IT systems efficiently. We talked about supply costs. Now we're looking at the reimbursement. So this is a revenue side. How do we make sure that, right now we have a lot of, the reimbursement cost is going down. So how do we make sure that, whatever service we provide, it's within the reimbursement that we get, especially from the government. So reimbursement is also something that we have to pay attention to make sure that we have appropriate, the service that we provide is not more than the reimbursement that we get, because it's a business. We want to make sure that we can stay afloat. Resources, that's another piece that we also have to compete for, because the phlebotomy area is not the only, it's part of the value chain in the diagnostic lab. So we have to compete for resources with the other testing labs, processing labs. So this is another dynamics that a lab manager faces on a daily basis, competing for resources to get the work done. We also have multiple stakeholders that we have to satisfy. As a phlebotomy area, we have the patients, we have the providers, we have other stakeholders that we have to satisfy. So understanding and knowing your stakeholders also helps in delivering the service that you need to provide. So we have different type of patients that come to the work area. Some come for blood work, others come from urine, all the different types of body fluid collections. We have to know all these different stakeholders so we can provide the services that each one is there for. So how do you achieve all this on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis? So having a proper planning and communication and also implementation plan is key to having a good operational strategy or excellence. You have to plan, you have to communicate, and you have to implement a strategy to help you in your daily management and also weekly or monthly management of the lab. If you don't have these three components, the planning, the communication, and the implementation, what's going to happen is you are continually fighting fires every day. So the topic of today is how do you make sure that you have a good operational strategy in operating a phlebotomy lab. So let's start by, if we look at phlebotomy, let's start and look at what do we bring to the table. Most people, when they hear about a lab, they only think about a testing lab, because that's what they see. They see the results. So they think about a testing lab. They forget about the front piece, which is the phlebotomy work area. So I see the phlebotomy operation as the ambassadors of any testing lab. So we are the patient facing. We see the patients. They come to us first. So the impression that we give the patient, I mean, that's the first That's the first impression patient gets when they come to a facility for any diagnostic services. We see them first. We collect the blood, the urine, whatever specimens that we need to collect. They see us first before they even go and see the providers. So we see them first. We provide that face. The first time they see any provider within an institution is the phlebotomy. So we give them the first impression, and most of the time is the last impression they get. So we want to make sure that we provide very courteous and knowledgeable service, be kind to them when they come to our work area. We also provide comfort and assurance to patients when they come to the work, when they come to any facility for any healthcare services that they are there for. Some of them come there, when some of them come, they have different levels of anxiety. So we have to make sure that we comfort them, we give them assurance to make sure that whatever they came there for will be successful. So still talking about operational excellence or strategy, when you're doing an operational strategy, you have to think about it in two ways. So there's short-term planning and a long-term planning. When we talk about a short-term, it can be daily. How much work do I have to do a day? So if you have a knowledge of how much work is available to do a day, then you can start looking at it. Okay, now I can start looking at it by hour. How many patients are coming to the work area if it's an outpatient area? How many patients are coming to the outpatient area by hour? If it's an inpatient area, how many others or how many patients do I have to go service in an hour? So that allows you to manage on a daily basis, on an hourly basis. Then when we talk about long-term planning, this is where you have to look at your operation 1 to 5 years ahead. What do I need to do, in a 1 to 5 year time? So once you have that, then it means you are planning for the future. You do your daily, hourly, short term, but at the same time, you have to have a long-term plan to make sure that your services are still relevant. You don't want anything to take you by surprise. Making sure that you plan for the future. You have the right budgeting in place. You have the right vendors in place. Yes, to make sure that you can source whatever you want as part of your long-term planning. So if we look at the operations in the lab, these are the elements or the focus areas that we typically look at. So we have, the quality, the safety, the productivity, and the delivery of service. But what we shouldn't forget about is we cannot do all these other work without the middle part, which is the people part. The people, I would say, are the most important asset that you have, because without the people, you cannot do all the other things that is surrounded it. You can achieve your safety, you can achieve your quality, you can provide the services, and of course, you can achieve any productivity. So this graphic here is to bring us back to say, we have to value our people more when, in terms of when you're operating a system, you have to look at, my people is very valuable. They are the assets that I have to maintain the best. If you have the right people, you have the right training, you have the right environment, you can achieve all these other things because they maintain the safety in the work area, they provide the quality of the service that you want, and they will give you the productivity that is required. So the whole intent of this graphics is to make sure that we don't forget about the people, although we want to achieve all these other elements. We want to achieve good safety in the work area, we want to achieve high productivity, we want to provide the best service and also the best quality. But we also want to make sure that people or the staff are the ones that make all this happen. So we have to make sure that we pay more attention to that. So I'll go into more details on all these different elements. So if we take out the people, like I said, your people are the most important asset that any lab has. So we have to value them. We have to make sure that we also value them, have a good people that can provide the services that we want. As an operation managers within the lab, having a good recruitment and retention system in place is also going to help us a lot, because we know phlebotomy, for example, it's in most areas we see phlebotomy as an entry level into the healthcare system. So how do we make sure that we are recruiting the right people that have interest in phlebotomy? Once we have them in the system, how do we maintain them? So it's very key for us as phlebotomy operations leaders to make sure that we have a well-documented recruitment and retention system in place, because phlebotomy, unlike the testing labs where they have some level of automation, phlebotomy is still a manual process. We need people to do that collection. So making sure that we have a recruitment and retention policy in place will help us maintain the required level of staff at all levels. Training and competency. And once you have the people, once you have the people in place, through your recruitment and retention, now you have to give them the proper training to do the task at hand. And so also having a training program also helps. And so once you have a training program, part of the training program is annual on a periodical system. It can be monthly, quarterly, yearly. You want to have to make sure that you have a system to make sure that you can assess the competency of your staff, to make sure that they are still performing to the level of the work that is available. We also shouldn't forget about the wellness of the staff. Maintaining a good work-life balance always goes a long way in making sure that your staff are satisfied and they are happy to come to work every day. Having a career advancement opportunities for phlebotomists is key, because like I said earlier, most phlebotomists enter the healthcare system as an entry level. So we want to make sure that they have opportunities to advance their career within the healthcare system. Some want to further their phlebotomy career to the next level. Others want to do something different, but giving them that opportunity to advance their career once they are in the healthcare system is key to maintaining good staff. And overall, we want to make sure that we work as a team. So teamwork is very, very important when we're talking about the people side, because the people makes the team, and we want to make sure that they all work together. Safety. Safety is very key to every operation. If we don't have safety, we're going to have a lot of issues. If we have injuries in the work area, that's going to reduce the number of staff that you need to do the work. So safety is very key in any work area. So we want to provide safe working environment to both our staff and the patients. We don't want to have any safety issues with our staff that do the work, as well as our guests, the patients that come to the work area. So having a good working environment, making sure that you periodically looking at cleaning up your work area, even having a safety audit helps in making sure that you're maintaining a good working environment, safe working environment. Another key to safety is also having a culture of transparency. When we talk about culture of transparency, we're talking about your staff, anybody involved in that providing of that service is open to speak up. Because if you see something that is going to violate a safety then anybody within that work area should be able to speak up so that that issue can be resolved. So having a culture of transparency is very key to safety. For areas that already do that, that is great. If you're not doing that, it's very important to make sure that you have culture of transparency. People can speak up, people can voice out their concern without any consequences. Establishing programs to track and mitigate safety incidents. So we say in the continuous improvement that if you don't measure something, you don't know what it is. So if you have a system of measuring and tracking your safety incidents, that will allow you to see where you need to focus your attention on. So it's very key to make sure that you have a system or some kind of program that track and also mitigate your safety incidents. So once you do the tracking, you can have a team together and say, okay, how can we mitigate these incidents? And if you have a safety component within your work area, you can always bring them in and they can help you design your work area so that you can eliminate some of the safety concerns. So safety is key, as we all know. Quality, we all the work that we provide, we want to make sure that we provide the highest quality services. So how do we do that? Similarly, you want to make sure that you have a quality program. And so when we say quality program, just making sure that you understand what is your output and how do you measure that output to make sure that it's meeting the requirement that is set up. Some of the requirements for quality is set up by regulations. Some of the requirements is set up by your customers. So making sure that you understand what those requirements are and then adhering to those requirements, it's what we call the program. Making sure that you have a system in place, some kind of quality management system in place to help you do that. Quality metrics. So once you've established and know what is it that you're going to track, then you need to track those metrics or measures to make sure that you are comparing the metrics to what the standard is. So having the program and collecting metrics is going to help you know that I'm achieving or not achieving. If you're not achieving that requirement, then you can go back and figure out how to resolve that. As part of quality, you also have this continuous improvement, making sure that you have a culture of continuous improvement because you want to continually improve your quality. So once it's all part, it's a cycle, it's all part of having a program, metrics, and then continuously improving. Anytime you see that you fall short of a metric, you want to make sure that you have a system in place and looking at what the problem is, quantifying the problem, and coming up and doing a root cause analysis, and then coming up with some kind of solution. And also, we want to make sure that it's objective. So we want to make this a data-driven operation. Whatever metric or any measure that you come up with, you want to make sure that you have the ability to track that information. It has to be data-driven, so it's very objective. Delivery of service. So when we talk about delivery of service, that is the main core of what we do. We provide a phlebotomy service, so it's key to know who your customers are. And we talk some of this already. As phlebotomy area, we are in between. We have customers upstream and we have customers downstream. So we have providers that we have to respond to the orders that they place, and we have the patients that come to our work area. So knowing who your customer is, what their requirement is going to allow you to provide a service that you need. To provide smooth operation in terms of services, you need to look at your workflow. If you have to design an efficient workflow, you want to make sure that you remove all the waste within your system, and that will allow you to have a seamless operation from end to end. If you have any work area, having a time or a continuous improvement team to look at how are we delivering the service from the time that the order is placed to the time that we send the specimen to the testing lab. So having some kind of workflow audits to look at this is very helpful. And in this, you can remove the waste. If you need to increase speed somewhere, you can also look at how long things are taking, so you can increase the speed in delivery of the service. So it's very important to look at your workflow and designing an efficient workflow. Part of delivery of service is also having neat and inviting work area. So we talked about patients being one of our customers. When patients come to your work area for phlebotomy service, we want to make sure that they come there, you have a very neat environment, it's inviting, so that they are comfortable when they come to the work area. Having cautious and knowledgeable staff is key to delivering on the service. And this goes into what we talked about, the training and the competencies that will allow you to make sure that the staff that you always have can provide or can deliver the service, and also making sure that the staff is kind, cautious to patients that come to the work area. Another key in delivery of service, also having a system in place to get customer feedback. So you're trying to gauge or have what we call a customer survey, satisfaction survey, gauge how you're doing. So you can design, you can design a system that allows you to get feedback from your customers to say, okay, how am I doing here? That allows you as a lab to design an efficient workflow to get feedback from your direct customers to say, okay, this is what I need to improve. This is what I'm doing well. So having a customer feedback or customer survey is key to making sure that you're providing a very good service. Productivity. So now you've looked at your safety, you have a good safety system, you understand what your customer needs, you providing the quality service that is required from you. Now you have to look at productivity. And when we talk about productivity, it's about what is the outcome of my service, right? So it can be as simple as looking at your throughput. So when we say throughput, so for let's say an outpatient area, you can look at how many patients are coming through the outpatient area per day. You can track that by month. So you have an idea how many patients are you servicing a day. You can also look at how many orders am I servicing a day, because one patient can have multiple orders. So this all allows you to look at, now you can quantify what is it that you're doing. So having this productivity, looking at your throughput, will allow you to look at how many services, how many patients are you doing a day, an hour, and so on. So this all will help you in your planning. Staff productivity, you can look at number of collections per phlebotomist as a metric. So you want to understand how are you using your staff. Looking at service time or turnaround time. So for outpatient areas, you can look at wait time. So once a patient checks in at your facility, how long is it taking them to go through before you call them for the actual blood collection? So that allows you also to, because knowing the wait time will allow you to look at your lobby size, right? How many seats do I need in my lobby? How do I need to design my lobby? And this is very key to knowing how long patients are waiting. Collection time. Once I call in the patient for outpatient or for inpatient, if I go in the patient room, how long does it take me to do that collection? is very key to know that, so that you can design your systems to allow you to provide timely services in terms of collection when you encounter a patient. Response time. So when we say response time, once the order is placed, how long does it take us to respond to that order? Right. So it's very key to have all these metrics to allow you to see, how are you providing these services, or how long is it taking? All this allows you to look at, if you do a complete audit or value stream map of your work area, you can see, okay, how long things are waiting in different areas, and how can I improve? If there's any delays, any non-value added timing, you can shrink those times to make sure that you can get your results out on time, because phlebotomy is still part of the overall turnaround time for a test. Once the provider orders the test, we say we can provide the results at this time, but they count the phlebotomy time also. So we also have to look at how long things are waiting or things are taking in our area that gets added to the testing lab. So when we talk about turnaround time, it's not only the testing lab, but also we have a component of that, because we do the collection. So we have to make sure that we understand that and then do our collections on time. Okay, so now let's get back to, we've talked about the 5 elements that make up your system of operation. We've looked at people, safety, quality, delivery, and productivity. So how do you put all this together? And that's what this slide is talking about. So implementation, how do we implement all this? Implementation of an operation excellence should be continuously and daily. You have to do it every day, and you have to do it continually. You don't want to do it when you feel like. If you want to maintain it, you want to keep the momentum going, then it has to be something that is done on a daily basis, and you do this continually. One way of doing this, and most people are familiar, is having a huddle system. And a huddle allows you to, especially if it's done right before a shift change or early in the morning for only one shift, it allows you to do a level set. So when you do a huddle, and huddle should only take maybe 5 to 10 minutes, it allows you to look at how much work do I have to do a day? What are some of the hindrances that we're going to face that day? How many staff do I have available to do the work? If there's any call-ins. So it allows you to prepare for the day. And it should be short and brief. You gather your staff together. Within 5 to 10 minutes, you go through and say, okay, this is how our day is going to look like. We are all on the same level set. So let's start the work. So for those that are doing huddle, that is great. If you're not doing huddle, this is probably a good opportunity to learn more about the huddle. There's another component of huddle that we'll talk about more in the next slides, and that is the managing for daily improvement, or MDI. So the MDI is an extension of a huddle. So basically, wherever you do your huddle, you can have a board that visually displays the operational metrics, right? So as part of getting ready for the daily work, you can look at on your MDI board and see whatever that you are tracking on that board, how things are working within the lab. It's supposed to be a quick visual communication to see, where things stand in the lab. And we'll talk more about the MDI system in the next slides. So for those that are doing huddles and maybe some component of MDI, that is great. If not, I will suggest that you do a little bit of research on huddles and MDI boards, so it can help you as part of your operational excellence journey. Okay, so now let's look at the MDI. What is MDI? So MDI is managing for daily improvement, and it's a component of operational excellence. And it's intended to facilitate daily improvement on issues that matter most in the lab. So basically, the key word here is daily. We want to make sure that you look at your operation on a daily basis. You don't want to, you don't want to stretch it. So if you can pick up issues on a daily basis, you can respond to them quicker than waiting, a week or a month. So the emphasis here on a daily basis. So on a daily basis, you either you have a system of getting inputs from the staff saying, okay, some areas they have way of submitting issues to management. So, and then you review this on a daily basis and say, okay, how do we address these issues? So the whole concept of MDI, or managing for daily improvement, is to making sure that we are looking at what issues that are happening in the lab on a daily basis. And then we have the way, then we can figure out through tracking the issue and then having a team to problem solve that issues. So the whole objective of MDI system is to engage employees in a sustained, continuous daily improvement. And the key term here is on a daily basis, because when it comes to continuous improvement, you want to make sure that it's done on a continuous basis, and then typically on a daily basis, so you can see what is happening daily. You can resolve them right away. You don't want, especially when you have issues that are recurring, you don't want to wait until you have a solution to them, because you want to, and also if that issue affects other areas, you want to make sure that you resolve them right away. So one, you solve the problem in your work area, and also you solve the problem for the other work areas. So MDI concept, and I will encourage you to learn more about MDI and see how that can benefit you in your work area. So more about the MDI and what it does. It allows staff to identify pain points or challenges that impair operations in their work area. So having an eye on what is going on in your lab on a daily basis, regularly figuring out what are the challenges that is happening within my work area. And some of these challenges, maybe you can resolve them as your lab, or sometimes it's beyond what you can do. So you have to have a means to escalate these issues, right? So a good example would be, let's say, all the orders that are coming to your work area, every time you receive these orders, you have to do something to fix it. So maybe it's an IT issue, or maybe the upstream providers don't know how to order the test. So you have to always resolve the issue within your lab before you can do your work. So if you track that and you know the quantity and say, okay, this is where the issue is coming from, this unit is where they're having the problem, you can work with them to fix that other issues before it even gets to you. So by doing it on a daily basis, pinpointing where these issues are coming from that is impairing your work, that is very key. It's timely, you do it right away, and you fix it with the area that is involved. You want to make sure that you measure the issue, right? And that can be on a daily basis, real time if possible. But we're still talking about measuring metrics, because if you don't measure what it is, you don't know what it is. You want to make sure that you quantify what the problem is. So once you've gathered enough data, the next step is to evaluate the issue, right? So this is where you do maybe some kind of root cause analysis to figure out, or maybe it's multiple issues, so you have to prioritize and see, okay, which ones do I need to resolve them first? Then you have to fix the problem. So this is where the problem solving comes in. And when you do the problem solving, you typically have a team that look at a problem, and say, okay, you can use any kind of, there's a lot of different problem solving tools that allows you to do a deep dive. You can do a root cause analysis to figure out what is the real root cause analysis, root cause of the problem. And then if you can eliminate that problem, you've solved the problem. So once you look at the issues, you evaluate, you solve the problem, then you implement the solution. And then once you implement the solution, if some areas will do a pilot to see how well it's working. If you feel confident that that solution will hold, you can go ahead and implement. Then once you are satisfied, then that new solution becomes a standard, because now you've come up with a standardized way of resolving or doing that work. And so now it's up to you to monitor the results and then making sure that you control the process so you don't go back to the issues again. So we talked about MDI board, and I will show you a picture of the MDI board by just a description. The MDI is part of the Managing for Daily Improvement, and it's a communication means or tool that allows you to visually look at what are the metrics that as a lab you've decided to track, right? Because when you do the MDI, it should be local. What is it? What's important for me in the lab to track? Or what is the most concern, especially for the techs that are doing the work. This is where you need the tech's involvement. You need to know what is impairing or what is hindering their daily work. So once you get those feedback, then you select, you look at them, you prioritize and say, okay, we have all these different issues. We're going to track this and, try to solve this first. So as part of the tracking, the MDI board allows everybody to see that, this is the issue that we've identified. We're going to track it for some time, get some data, and then we fix it. So the MDI board is nothing but a way to visually display the metrics or the issues that we said is impairing our work area. We're going to measure it and then figure out how we're going to solve it. And so it's a daily metrics, and typically collected real time if possible by the lab team. So it visually record of issues that guides the team of what problems or concern that may be hindering their operations. So it's a visual management, and visual, it's in continuous improvement, we emphasize a lot about visual management, because if you can see it, everybody can see it. We want to make sure, so it also goes as part of the transparency. We want to make sure that everybody understands the issues in the lab. We want to make sure that everybody have the same understanding of the issue, and then we're all working to have a solution to that. So this is an example of an MDI board. Excuse me. So this is an example of an MDI board, and the MDI board, like I said, it's nothing but a visual management tool that allows you to look at the metrics that you've selected to look at. So if you remember the 5 components that we talked about, so the safety, quality, people, delivery, and productivity. This is what we started with in our presentation when we talked about the 5 elements of operational excellence. So the safety, quality, people, delivery, and productivity. And so basically, it's like a swim lane. In the roles, we have these components, and in the columns, this is where you do your tracking. So the tracking can be on a daily basis. Then you can have a long-term tracking, and then you can have a problem-solving area. So basically, so let's say if we take safety, a phlebotomy area might be interested in making sure that we have a good compliance on eyewear safety. So you can set a goal to say, I want to have 100%. So anytime anybody is doing the work in the lab, they have to have their eyewear on, their safety glasses on. If anybody doesn't have, if one out of the many doesn't have their eyewear safety on, then that is a defect. So basically, so for this example here, anything that is a green means that they were successful, they achieved the goal. Anything that is red means they didn't achieve, the goal that they set. And the second column is actually the trending. So you trend this over time. Then in the third column is where you do your problem solving. So this is where you do the continuous improvement. This is where you use the continuous improvement tools to try to understand the issue. So in this case, you can do root cause analysis using 5 whys or fishbone to understand what are the real root cause analysis. Then you can implement the solution and also track the solution. So that's what the 4th column is. These other columns in your MDI board is actually for communication. So this is where you can have any other communications to pass along to the lab. And the beauty about this one is, let's say if somebody missed the huddle, during the day when they have some free time, they can come to the board and see exactly what is happening in the lab. And anybody within the lab, understand, you understand what is on the board. So you can have them, everybody can come here and see on a glance what is happening in the lab, how well we're doing on our metrics. So for areas that already have some experience with MDI, I would say you should go ahead and continue. And for areas that don't have any concept of MDI, I would say you can investigate, and learn more about MDI system. I'm sure you already have a lot of these metrics already, but it's good to visually show this in the lab so your work areas can also see exactly, because most of the time we leave the problem solvers to the supervisors or the leadership in the lab. The techs, the lab assistants, they also want to see this, because sometimes they will tell us we have this issue. Instead of us to engage them to come up with, to be part of the problem solving, we take the issue and we try to solve it ourselves. And by doing that, they don't have any progress. They don't know whether we're doing anything about it as leaders. So by having a board like this, it allows everybody in the lab to know that we are making progress, and this is the goal that we've set for ourselves and how well we're doing to the goal. My next slide is going to be an example. So this is a real life example of a phlebotomy lab that is using this MDI system. So you can see that this is kind of a truncated a picture here, but they have the safety, the quality, people, delivery, and the productivity lane. And for each of it, they've identified what is it that they are tracking. They've set a goal, and then they have the daily tracking, the long-term tracking, and also they have some kind of problem solving. So in this case, like I said, once they've identified something, an issue that they are working on in the lab, they use this white sheet here. And remember, if I said earlier, if sometimes the issue is not within your work area, but a different work area, so you have to have a means to escalate that issue. So in our case here, we use a pink slip here to escalate issues. So whenever you have an issue beyond your work area, you fill out a form and submit that to whatever the area is, and say, okay, this is this is the issue. So it's like an S bar. This is the issue. We're getting these errors from that are coming to our work area from your work area. So we want to work with you to address those issues. So this is a real life example of an MDI board. And so we have this in most of our phlebotomy areas, and we have huddles every day, sometimes multiple times a day, because we have different, some of the techs come in different times of the day. So we can have them multiple times during the day so that we cover everybody in the lab. But the key is you have to start it, maintain it. It's going to take a little bit of time to get used to it, but once you get used to it, it's very seamless, and the lab techs and everybody in the lab, they engage in this. They use this as their communication. So this is like a dashboard basically for how you are running the lab, and also looking at issues within the lab and also resolving them. Because if you don't identify the issues, if you don't resolve them, then those issues will maintain, and it becomes like part of the work, which it shouldn't be, because now it's become a waste in the system. As part of continuous improvement is making sure that you are continuously looking at reducing waste. So if you can reduce waste in your system, that also helps in the efficient running of the lab. So I think we've approached the Q&A section of our presentation. So if anybody of you have a question, I think you can type it in the Q&A portion of.
That's correct. Thanks, Mohammed. So at this time, we will take any questions, and you can use the Q&A icon in Zoom to submit those questions.
Okay, so we start getting some questions coming in. We'll start with this one here. It says, do you have this board in a place that is visible to patients, or do you have a separate space that you keep it? So I will say right now, most areas that we have these boards are within the lab itself. So this is not in the patient area, because we want this to be focused in the lab. So other places that we have these boards right now are currently within the lab workspace. Okay, so more questions about the huddle. Who is tasked with holding these huddles? Is it leads among the staff, or is it higher management? Good question. So the huddle is run by the techs themselves. So when we have the huddles, initially when we roll this out, it was the supervisors that were doing the huddle. But now we've gone to the level where the lab techs rotate and lead the huddles. Let's see. Okay. Sorry, I missed this. Are there electronic versions of MDI board? Good question. We've had a lot of issues about this also. With remote work right now, we have to develop some electronic versions of this. So if your work environment allows you to do that, yes, you can do that. You can create your own. Electronic version, especially for remote work. It doesn't have to be a physical board, because there's nobody that will be around the physical board. Yeah, so you can create your own electronic versions. Do you have a resource for MDI? So we get a lot of questions about MDI. Yes, I mean, if you go, yeah, currently at Mayo, we've developed our own team. We have our own continuous improvement team. I don't know your work area, your facility, but if you do a search of MDI, managing for daily improvement, you should be able to get a lot of information about MDI. Okay, so we have a question here about redraws. Like I said, I'm not a phlebotomist, but I'm very intimate about redraws. I can probably say a little bit about it. How do you track redraws on a daily basis? Our report is done monthly manually. In our LIS system, we have a way to identify if it's a redraw. So whenever a redraw is issued, we order the new test, the new collection as a redraw. So we can run a report on the redraws, and we get this, yes, on a daily basis, and we follow up right away to make sure that we understand the cause of the redraw. Okay. Is there a standard number of draws per hour for productivity? Very good question. There's a lot of factors that go into collections per tech, right? So it depends on, one, how many patients are available. Two, it depends on it depends on the availability of staff. So there's a lot of different factors, but if you have a good timings of how long it takes to provide those services, you can say, okay, collections, let's say, takes 10 minutes. Once you have the patients in the room, it takes about 10 minutes from beginning to end. Then once you have that 10 minutes, then you can say in an hour, a tech should be able to do about six patients, right? So that allows you to, set some kind of target to say every tech should be able to do 6 collections per hour. But like I said, it depends on the FTE of the tech, the time of day. In our work area, we have it's very heavy in the morning, very light in the afternoon. So a tech who is working in the morning will have more collections than a tech that is working in the afternoon. So there's a lot of things that goes into collections per tech. So you have to look at your environment to set that requirement.
I'd say time for one more question, Mohammed.
Okay, I'll take this one here. There's a lot of interest on MDI and huddle. Can you recommend a way to consistent huddles or MDI implementation when you have multiple shifts in a 24-hour time period? Yeah, so if you heard me, I said we have, even in a phlebotomy area, which is not 24, the outpatient is not 24/7, we have multiple huddles during the shift, because we have a staggering way of people coming to work. So we have people that start right in the morning. We have some that come around 10 o'clock. So to make sure that we cover everybody, we make sure that we have multiple huddles. So if you run a 24-hour shift, so you want to make sure that at least you can have main one, AM shift, PM shift, and the night shift. And sometimes, because of the way people come in, the way staff come in, you probably want to have some in between. Yeah, so it doesn't have to be one the whole day. You can have it depending on the shift. Yeah, so the easy answer is you can have multiple huddles in a day.
Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you for participating in today's Continual Improvement webinar on Phlebotomy Lab Operations. If your question was not addressed during today's session, or if you have any additional questions, please include them in the evaluation. You may reference the link in the chat to access the evaluation now. Laboratory credit is extended for this program. Upon finalizing your evaluation, you will have the option to claim credit and print your certificate. If you had registered for this webinar and joined by phone only, please email us at mcleducation@mayo.edu if you do not receive the evaluation. As a reminder, this program was recorded and will be archived on our website in a few weeks. Thank you again for joining us for today's webinar, and have a great day.